Welcome to the Bullpen Show. I'm your host, Austin Alexander. We're going to talk fall baseball in our DP leagues. We're going to focus on the Midlands today. And at this point, I want to bring in our guest, Stuart Lake. He's our commissioner of the Midlands League. Stuart's been in college baseball for an eternity, 24 years at the college level, most of that in the SEC. Coach, how are you today?
Doing great, Austin. How are y'all?
Doing great. We've seen a lot this week. We've seen a lot like first couple of weeks right here in the Midlands. You run that league. Of course, folks, we got 4 leagues, one in Rock Hill, one in the upstate, one in the low country. But Stuart Lake, with a wealth of college baseball experience and baseball in general, I'm very fortunate when you came on board a few years ago and agreed to be our commissioner when we started back the league here in the Midlands. We're going to get to a ton of ground as it pertains to that. You're going to take us down a little bit of how that league is going. We're going to, if we have time, talk about some of the players that are in it. Before we do, we'll talk and start with our Palmetto pros. We mentioned Bryce Tedosio last week, doing real well. He actually hit his first big league dinger this past week as well. So that's somebody that's agreed to come on when the season wraps up, which is going to be pretty soon for most of the teams that aren't going to be playing in October. He's going to come on and do a podcast with us when baseball settles, and we're just looking for some baseball talk about. Bryce will be jumping on, but T.O. hit his first big league homer this week. I want to give him a shout out as our lone Palmetto pro. We're going to go around the horn real quick. All the information that we've been able to see from this week is posted, both from the upstate, from the Midlands, and the low countries. Go on to our website, thediamondprospects.com. Velocities, we got pop times, we got a little bit of everything, a lot of prospect information on a lot of the coverage that we've been able to get out and see over the course of the last 3 nights. So I'm going to stop there and really just want to bring in our guest, Stuart Lake. Coach, you've been the commissioner of this league now going in. This is our 4th season doing it. You were able to crank this thing back up and make it a thriving league from 8 the first year now to 28. If you could kind of talk about the state of the league and your role in it.
Definitely, and I love bragging on it because 4 years ago, as you said, I'd gotten out of coaching, had gone into the insurance world, which was new for me, sitting around a desk and not talking baseball all the time. So when you reached out and this opportunity came to, one, get back and get to see friends, the coaches in this league, and just so many people I had missed seeing from being out of coaching for that short time. So, yeah, we did. We went with 8 teams the first year. I'm so proud now we're at 28. And I think just the heart and soul of our league are our coaches. I talk to you all the time about how much I see them taking advantage of an opportunity, the instruction, the relationships they're building. And I've been lucky in our first 2 weeks. I've got to see, I think, 12 of our 28 teams already. We had a game on Monday night, so that helped me catch a few more. But I usually try to hit the double headers, and that gives me a chance to see 4 teams playing a night, and I've got to do that now 5 times. It's been really fun and just a great start weather-wise. It feels more summer than it typically does right now, but it's been a good start to our league.
I mean, you mentioned the start of the league, and the weather has been, for the most part, most of the month has been good. Most of August has been pretty good in terms of being able to schedule what we need to, be able to do it without having to follow the radar and make up games and such. If you remember, about a year ago, I don't remember the exact date, but it was about this time that we had the hurricane roll through and just ravaged a lot of the areas in our league, certainly the upstate as well, and that affected the area you're in. If you could kind of talk about some of the adjustments that took. Last year, we missed a whole week, which was actually a miracle that we only had to take 1 week off from it. But if you could kind of talk back to a year ago when we weren't quite as fortunate as we've been this year.
Well, it is, and you and I grew up in the Hurricane Hugo era, so it was about the same time. I think Hurricane Hugo may have been the 26th of September. Last year, it's Hurricane Helene, which obviously with the devastation of North Carolina, probably even maybe more than our state, but I live up here in Little Mountain in this area. We didn't have electricity for about 4 or 5 days. So it was a significant disruption to our season. And you're right, it's amazing to think we came back with 1 week off. We're able to jump right back in our schedule, get our all-star game in. And as we try in all our leagues to be done around that Halloween, early November, and we're still able to do it. So knocking on wood, I know we got a little disturbance, as they say, off the coast now. Hopefully that thing will just come on, get through, and get out of our way as we start week 3 for the Midlands League next week. So it's starting to roll now. As you know, we play 6. So kind of starting to get to the halfway point next week. That's when it really gets fun for me, because then you get to start asking coaches like, hey, who you thinking is your all-stars? Who's a guy that you, or I love asking this question, who did you think you wouldn't be talking about when this thing started a few weeks ago, and now we're standing here talking? Because that happened as I was over at Dutch Fork last night. You're getting to see a guy starting a game that was just a JV pitcher last year, and all of a sudden, oh, there's something about him you like. So this league has been very adaptable, but again, the reason is we have, and I know I'm biased, just some of the best coaches in the state and in the country, I think, in our league. And then, and I know you and I talk about it, what Tomei does with our umpires, they become a part. I'm watching a umpire last night explain to a kid how you can get hit and how you can't get hit on a play, a hit by pitch. And this is pretty cool. The coach kind of just smiled and said, I don't need to go out there. He's handling it. So it's just parts of the game that are so fun to watch in an instructional league setting.
Well, you mentioned the All-Star game, Coach, and we want to mention to everybody in the Midlands, we're going to be back at the Blowfish Stadium or Lexington County Baseball Stadium, where the Blowfish play, and we're going to be able to go back right before Halloween again. The dates on that are going to be October 28th and 29th, which is that Tuesday, Wednesday, right before Halloween comes around. So they were tremendous hosts last year, and we look forward to returning this product there, hopefully over the course of these next 4 weeks. We've got a pretty good working list of guys that will be in attendance that day, but a lot of tickets haven't been punched yet. So we look forward to seeing a lot more baseball. Hopefully the weather will cooperate so we can get out to the ballparks and catch as much as we can. Certainly you mentioned the coaches and just the influence they have, but they're huge. As much as we try to get out and see all the different players, they're very influential when it comes to, who will make that and who will be able to put on display at the All-Star game. I want to kind of go back to you, Coach, and talk about some of the benefits of this league that you've seen. So you've had some sidebars with coaches as you go to games and just, when you're talking to them, whether it be scheduling or maybe some of the players they've got, but some of the conversations you've had with coaches. We were talking a little bit before we went on air here, some of the stories that you wanted to kind of share. I just want to kind of lob it to you there to talk about some of the sidebars you've been able to have with coaches over these first 2 weeks.
Yeah. This league, when we first started, we kind of had Coach White at Irmo, Coach Bonnet at River Bluff, Coach Hucks at Lexington. As you said, we only had 8 in that first year as we started to build. The most common conversation I've had over the last 3 years is coaches calling me, and they asked me very directly, Stu, would you do this? Would you take the time to get all this done and have a team in a fall league if you were a high school coach? My answer is quickly yes, but I also say, here's why. The hardest part of a high school coach's year to me, and I know they'd all agree, is when you have to make decisions in January, when you have to reduce your JVs and your varsities down to rosters that you can use. And I say this to them every time. You cannot do this and enjoy your fall and hang out, do whatever you want to do, or you can do this and have a plethora of information that's going to help you make those decisions. Enough information that can help you lay your head down in January when those tough times come to having to make a cut, or am I keeping this guy? And when I get kind of through with my spiel, they all start laughing and go, I didn't have a chance, did I? I said, no, you need to do this because you can learn in this fall. I was telling you last night over at Dutch Fork, I love going there because they treat you great, but I see what Coach Jones is doing with that program, and he and I got to talk a little bit kind of beginning and middle as we always do. And we both are saying you learn how to talk to your players in this league. Because we know it, raising kids, there's certain players you can yell at, and there's certain players you got to pat on the back. Well, if you can learn in an instructional setting which ones respond to which, well, what's a huge thing when you get into your spring and you're trying to get going. And the league that we play in, I tell them all the time, this is the best baseball you can get to see. I mean, this isn't, I can just roll it out there and we're going to win 8-2. No, this is competitive baseball, and we've got just great teams in it, so they're competing as we go. But this is the part, and you can tell, and you'll have to probably cut me off because this is when I get excited. Coaches that take time to build relationships, and so many of them do in our community and in our league, they're the ones that win championships. I got to learn that I started my high school career. We got Charlie Assey and my old coach Clyde Livingston at Mid-Carolina, 2 great examples for me when I started as a high school coach. And I won a state championship with Coach Assey at Brooklyn Casey. Then I moved over to South Carolina, and it's Coach Tanner and Coach Tolman and Jerry Myers and the likes of that. And I just keep seeing the same thing. It's going to be about relationships. It's going to be, we're going to work hard. So you don't get an excuse to say, well, they don't work hard. Why do I? We work hard. Coach Tanner is one of the hardest working in practice and in office coaches I've ever been around. So these relationships, and now I'm old, you're younger than me, but we're one of the older guys, Double A. I hate to tell you now. So when I start telling them, I had a dad ask me last night, how many guys have you got to coach that made it to the big leagues? And I'm super proud. I said, I've now got 31 guys that I've got to be an assistant coach or a head coach to and watch their career. I said, and I can tell you what they all had in common. They were always the hardest working kids on the team. And that truly is what I believe. And that parent said, I'm going to tell my son that as soon as we get in the car. So it's true. From Brett Gardner to, whoever, when I had Zach Cozart at Ole Miss and all the Gamecocks that I've had and had so much success with, those guys were always the hardest working guys on the team.
You're right. And it's really fun for us to be able to get out and try to identify those guys. Not that we're trying to identify who's going to be the next big leaguer. Right now, in a lot of cases, we're trying to determine who's going to be a pretty good college player and at what level they might be able to contribute past high school. But one of the other things that I enjoy too as an evaluator is we're able to see, over the course of a 7-inning scheduled game, sometimes time limits have to kick in, particularly with the double headers. But I mean, you're getting to see 4 or 5 and sometimes 6 arms, sometimes 7 arms from one high school over the course of one ball game. And of course, the other teams are doing that too. It's a lot to keep up with from an evaluation standpoint because they're changing arms almost every inning. But it allows us to see their roster, and you don't normally get to see that. We show up for a high school game in the spring, you might see one guy for 6 innings or 7 innings. And you don't get to see their whole staff, their whole roster. And that's one of the things it allows us to do, and allows us to also identify guys that may be playing JV baseball this year, but we can easily, these guys are up and comers. When we go, for instance, we do the war room in January, you're always in there with us too when we're doing the player rankings. You would think it would be very difficult to put together a list of freshmen that hadn't even played a high school game yet, but because of these fall leagues over the course of our state, and over the course of, the 2 months that we do this, we're able to identify quite a few players that'll have a 2029 beside their grad class. It might not step on a varsity field this year, but we've gotten a chance to see them play a handful of times in a competitive setting. So from an evaluation standpoint, it really helps us in that sense, but also gives those guys opportunities to, maybe, see a varsity arm over the course of the fall. And like you also mentioned, these coaches are able to evaluate them in so many different settings over the years. So many coaches have said, man, I didn't realize this guy was going to be able to pitch for us. And I was concerned maybe he had command issues in the past or he didn't throw hard enough or for whatever reason. The innings just weren't there to get that guy into a varsity game or even a JV game. Sense where the score doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and toss him in there and see how he does. And you may discover an arm. You may discover that guy can play shortstop. That guy might be one of your best 9 that you can throw into the lineup. And so we see all these things, and the coaches that take those days away from the game day to take advantage of that. You got more time with your players on the field. They get more ground balls. They get more live reads, in the outfield, tracking balls. You got time to put in your first and thirds, cutoffs, relays, bunt, offense. You got a chance to do all that. Like you said, before January, when you're trying to do tryouts and figure out, one, who you're going forward with. But really, when the rubber meets the road, a lot of times it boils down to just having to get ready to win a baseball game. This allows you to do a lot more and do a lot of the teaching. And that's why we call it a developmental league. And these coaches do a super job of that as well. And I want to talk real quick before we come back to you, Coach, just some players that have really stood out. Some guys that you mentioned earlier, Felix Fletcher Ruiz from Chapin is a recent commit. And Turner Scott at Millen Valley was another guy you were talking about. Lawson Lawrence, that's the guy you've seen quite a bit at Mid-Carolina. He just committed to Coker. Do you have a chance? Can you talk about Lawson Lawrence as a Mid-Carolina alum? Can you talk about a guy that's playing there right now, and maybe a couple other Mid-Carolina guys that you've seen recently?
Well, here's where I really want to talk about in Mid-Carolina is the one. Coach Stribble played for me. So I started as a high school coach in 1996. Stribble, who's not a head coach, coached my son when he played at Mid-Carolina. And when this was starting, Mid-Carolina didn't get in it initially. Lindsay and I would have a lot of conversations, and here's where I sold Lindsay on it. I said, you know what? You don't play River Bluff, and you don't play Lexington on your schedule right now. And when your kids ever go into those environments, it might be intimidating. And he kind of looked at me and he said, you're right. He goes, I'd like to try this. As he got in the league, Coach Bonnet, Coach Hucks, people, he started playing them in our fall league. Now they're playing each other in the spring because what they realize is, hey, our team can compete with your team. You never know sometimes. The 5A baseball for certain, they've got a lot bigger school, a lot more people. But now you get to see, Cardinal Newman's a school, competes with anybody they want to play with in this league. Now I look at Mid-Carolina's schedule and I laugh. Sometimes I go, whoa, why are you playing all these teams? But it is now why he has won a upper state championship, played in state championships because of this. But yeah, when you talk about Lawson, I don't get to see the local kids as much as I wish. When my son Hayden was playing, shoot, I could have given you a breakdown of everyone. But Lawrence reminds me of a guy, Jace Martin, that just pitched theirs now at Anderson, went to Sumter with my son. There's a couple other just young guys in that obviously I tried to get there and they were picking on me. I wasn't there week one because I was in Midland Valley. I said, well, I wanted to go to Midland Valley. My schedule allowed it and I needed to get some baseballs in to Coach Richardson, but I got to see Mid Carolina last week against Dreer. I'll get to see him this week against Camden because they'll be coming here, and I love seeing the Camden group when they come in. But yeah, there's going to be some special kids on there. Sometimes I tell you, I hate to try to predict too much, but you also learn role players. You know, I've got a neighbor right here that's a big player from Mid Carolina, shell kid, and you learn a role. You know, so you're going to catch, you're going to play third. And they brought in a kid the other day, Ryan Steinermeyer, is a coach from Mid Carolina. I recruited him. He signed with me at Charleston Southern. And he walked over and he said, what do you think? I said, hey, the kid in right field's got your best arm, it looks like. He goes, yes, sir. Does he ever pitch? He goes, well, we were thinking about putting him on the mound tonight just to see how it was. He jumps on the mound. We rode him up on DP. He's 83 off the mound. You know, and he looks like a guy to me that's going to be an excellent short reliever type guy for them. But if they don't play in this league, as Lindsay told me that night, I don't know if I ever put him on the mound. But that night, I kind of needed one more guy to help us get one more inning of our scrimmage. And now he's a guy that jumps in the mix. So it's just cool for me. My problem at these things, Austin, is I start talking so much to people, I got to really pull myself back in. That's where the radar gun helps me so much because I love seeing velo. And as I told a parent last night, velo's important, but we ran across a pitcher last night that no one got a comfortable looking swing on. I said, that's important too. So just trying to take notes, and boy, I would have been very frustrated if I'd have finished this with you and not mentioned one name, Fox Beyer. Fox Beyer is a brother to me, one of my best friends. Fox helps me run so much with this league. And I told a few coaches, Fox lives in New Jersey because everybody thinks, well, where's Fox? I said, y'all got to realize Fox is my computer guru. So Fox is, my guy that stays on us to get the rosters right and get stuff in. Let's get the stories in. He and I set up last night because you needed stuff in. And Fox and I both said, let's get this done before 11 o'clock. So I got home, hustled home from Dutch Fork. We were on the phone during the game. We're getting it done for you because I know you got some travel coming up. But Fox Beyer, he's instrumental in helping us get everything going. I just love it creates a fun time for me and him to talk.
Oh boy, let me echo that. Shoot, he and I were texting after midnight last night, and I just appreciate his commitment to helping us get to clean up a lot of the things that he's able to do behind a computer that free us up, honestly, to do a lot of the baseball stuff while we're right here on the ground talking to these coaches and at the ball games. He's able to really help us in that sense. So shout out to you, Fox. Super job, awesome dude. And very valuable to us indeed. I want to mention a couple other players. One that I talked about last week in our podcast, and another one that's a newcomer to the area. First, the transfer from Strom Thurmond is now at North Augusta. Landon Jones has now popped his third home run. He's kind of on a Cal Raleigh run right now. He popped one. I saw him at White Knoll the other day. I was headed from one game to another, so I missed his first homer at Lexington on Tuesday, but I did see the blast he hit a little bit later in the game to left. So that's 3 bombs for him. And keep in mind, Coastal Carolina signed him as a right-handed pitcher. So that's another offensive force Coach Lynn's got to a very good team that's really made waves here early on in their fall season. And also want to mention, too, in that same game, it was a launching pad, turned into a home run derby at Lexington that night. A kid that just moved in to the area, from my understanding is he's from Iowa. My understanding is that he was at P27 last year. But he certainly made waves, and I think he hit a home run last week. He hit a home run this week. So I just want to kind of mention out Grady Detbarn. Welcome to South Carolina. You've certainly made waves. We got a chance to, in short order, he played some at second, some at short. So another good move in for the Wildcats. And again, this is a guy that moves in, so you don't necessarily know what you got. Well, you got 6 games in the fall, maybe a little bit more in an all-star game to be able to check out what this new guy has a chance to be. So he's certainly landed and made his presence felt with a couple bombs in each of his first 2 games here in South Carolina. I guess before we wrap up here, and I got a couple announcements to make here late. Coach Lake, is there anything else before we land this plane? Is there anything else that you would like to say? Any other shout outs before we fold here?
Well, first of all, appreciate you and what you've done. You've done it for my son. You did it for me when I was coaching. I always knew I could rely on the information that comes through Diamond Prospects because not only of you, and you know this, of the people that you've got out. I mean, it's incredible. When we sit in a room sometimes, it's kind of cool to think who's sitting in that room in high school baseball, college baseball. It's a big deal. And it is as a comfort to me as a parent when my son was going through it to know it was quality people doing evaluations. Second, I just want to thank all the coaches that just make this work. It's cool, double A. I think we got a concession stand now to every home game. So they've caught on to the fact. I'm sitting there with the guys from Dutch Fork last night, and they're joking. Made $150+ last night at a little doubleheader on a Tuesday or Wednesday night. Man, that money adds up. It just keeps going right into their program and things they can do and enjoy with their players. So I just continue to see our Midlands League grow. I look forward to watching it grow. And I look forward to this time of year because my wife, she loves it too. It gets me out of her way. I think about 3 nights a week, so she gets to catch up on everything. But it's just fun for me. I try to get to the ballparks early, and I'm always going to be the last one there as they're kind of finishing up because it's just so many good people that are a part of this league to get to be a part of. So thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Well, I'm glad you're part of it. I'd say this to a lot of people, and I'll say it to you right here, and to whoever else is listening to us. I have to pinch myself when I look at who's in the room with me and who's a teammate of mine. Boy, I've been able to insulate myself with just tremendous folks. I mean, the fact that with all your wealth of knowledge and background in the game that you agreed to be one of our commissioners. And, of course, Gary Randall might be one of the most respected coaches and scouts in the Carolinas. I can't think of anybody that's more revered than that guy. He's been running our fall league in Greater Rock Hill for 10 years. And of course, our guys in the upstate and our guys in the low country are just very well respected baseball folks. And you mentioned the war room, we do get together. We're not able to get together a ton, but when we do, while we are working, we've got some pretty good war stories to tell.
Yes.
A lot of baseball knowledge, just a lot of good baseball folks, good dudes are on our team, and we continue to add to it. We're very particular with who we do include. We want to make sure that they're a fit for our personalities and our drive to try to, better the game, I tell people all the time, our platform is just one state and it's just one sport, but within it, there's some really good folks, and we want to reach as many of those as we possibly can. We want to help as many of those as we possibly can. So for us to be able to do what we need to better the game, I guess, to advance the high school game, we got to continue to bring in quality people. And right now, I'm very pleased as I look around our team, with you heading things up in the Midlands. I know that, those other leagues are in really good hands. And so just really pleased to be able to look around and say that our team is something I'm proud of. And while people look at rankings and, we may get it right, sometimes we'll get it wrong. And certainly in their opinions, we'll get a lot of things wrong. It's not because we don't pull our hair out and have a little bit of an educated opinion with a little bit of background behind it to try to put those things together for you guys. So, I tell you, Coach, I just urge people to, while we're out, we're watching a lot of baseball, we're writing a bunch of stuff, we're working deep into the night, early in the morning, just trying to get this stuff up in a timely fashion as much as we possibly can. If you go look at the Midlands report from this week, we had guys everywhere, and it's going to take a while to read all that. So anybody who's interested, and we're going to be pumping out, throughout on Thursdays and Fridays, we're pumping out all 4 leagues. So there's just a plethora of information. It's deep. We like to think it's pretty credible information for you guys to read. So go to thediamondprospects.com. Anything that we feel like is important, we're throwing on there. Also our social media, both Twitter, X, and social media, and Instagram. While we're we're trying to get that stuff out live while we're at the game, trying to do the best we can to not only keep our thumbs moving and get that out to you, but also keep our eyes up and see what we're able to see between the lines. Coach, do you have anything else before we roll?
No, appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you at the ballpark and hope to see people out. We got 4 more great weeks and then our All-Star game to wrap us up in October.
Well said. One mention before we go, the fall showcase is going to be November 1. The early deadline, if you're hearing this right now, you got until Monday at midnight Monday for a $50 price break. We'd already cut the price tag to begin with before we put it out there. You can save $50 more if you want to be involved with that. November 1st is the event at River Bluff. All the information is on thediamondprospects.com. Save $50 by Monday if you want to jump in the early birds. That's all I've got. I appreciate everybody joining us. Coach, thank you for joining me. And this will be the close of our 57th Bullpen show. We'll see you at the ballpark real soon.